Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And we have a very, very exciting show in store for you this morning. And the next few days, I'm going to make an announcement about all the guests we have starting today. Today, of course, as I mentioned, Sheriff Jim Allard will be our guest, fan favorite. Sheriff Allard will be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. So if you have any questions for the sheriff, feel free to send them in at any time, or any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms. You see the number on the bottom of the screen, and we read your comments during the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program. So let's kick off the program with that. Comment from a viewer after yesterday's program, and how apropos. I thought no means no. Why doesn't a yes vote require a second yes vote? And that is in regards to the school budgets. Great question. That's been the problem for quite some time. If you recall, back when they were combining the schools, that was a major story here in Corning Painted Post, because the idea was we kept saying no to the combination of schools, and it like 6 or 7 times, and finally they got their yes, and then it was over. Well, yesterday, the Corning Painted Post School District, the budget passed, I would say overwhelmingly, though not, and this was the concern right along, not much of a turnout, but the budget passed by 58.06% for the count, according to the Corning Painted Post School District. Yes received 128 votes. No receiving 1,537. Also, if you voted in the Corning Painted Post School District, the Southeast Steuben County Library prop passed as well by 59.43%. In Horseheads, voters approved their new budget with a 66% majority. So there you are, at a time when people are talking about struggling and people perhaps leaving New York State because they can't afford to live here any longer. I think we sent a clear message to politicians that is just not the case. That when voters have a chance to decide whether or not they want an increase in taxes, they voted for said increase in taxes. That, at face value, is how I look at it, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Again, both Corning Painted Post and Horseheads school budgets passed. Okay, we've got a couple of national news. We got some local news, statewide news. We can talk about, if you want to, about Brad Lander's arrest. This seems to be the new trend, which is try to get arrested if you're a Democrat. As a matter of fact, Brad Lander gets arrested at that ICE detention facility, and there's already headlines such as this: Brad Lander's moment. Well, it gets your name out there. He is running for mayor. And get your name out there. Definitely is going to help with fundraising. And you have politicians calling it fascism, that he got arrested, and then he gets to make the rounds on national news. As we saw earlier with Senator Padilla, now being focused and being interviewed by many major media outlets. A couple quick updates as we kick off the program this morning. We learned yesterday, this is interesting, nearly 70,000 people have signed up for the new Golden Trump card. You remember the Trump card? It's a Visa, and from this biased news outlet that I'm reading from, scheme, but this new Visa plan led by Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, it will grant foreigners legal residency in the United States at a cost of $5 million. So 70,000 people have agreed to pay $5 million to get a visa to come to the United States. The website, if you're interested, trumpcard.gov, for would-be applicants to register their interest in the visa and to provide basic contact information, including their name, email address, and region of the world. The card shown on the website features President Donald Trump's face and signature, as well as an eagle, the Statue of Liberty, and the American flag. On Monday morning, Lutnick said his department's internal online dashboard showed 67,697 people on the waiting list. Within an hour, that number had jumped to 68,703. The U.S. Commerce Secretary told the Financial Times the card will be made of gold. It will be beautiful. Donald Trump appreciates these kind of things. He cares about how it looks. He cares about how it feels. I mean, he deeply cares about that and thinks if you're going to buy and make his investment in America, we should give you something that is beautiful. The original idea for the visa came from a Trump donor, John Paulson, as a way to raise revenue for the United States and help it pay down its $36 trillion debt. The Commerce Secretary said the Trump card will appeal to business leaders and companies seeking legal residency in the United States for themselves or their employees. So again, great news. We had not heard an update in a while on this. Now there is the website. Again, trumpcard.gov. So $5 million to invest in a gold Trump card, a visa, and almost 70,000 have already applied. I would say, depending on the final number that are approved, I would say that's a major success. But even with all those people willing to pay $5 million to come to this country, far-left Representative Ilhan Omar says that the United States is turning into, quote, one of the worst countries in the world. She was on an interview, and because the outlet that she appeared on just didn't really pack a lot of punch, we did not hear about what she had to say until quite a few days later, because she actually said this on Friday, but I'll quote it and get your thoughts on it. Quote, this again, Ilhan Omar, Representative Ilhan Omar from Minnesota. I mean, I grew up in a dictatorship, and I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that, to have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world, to now be turned into one of the worst countries, where the military are in our streets without any regard for people's constitutional rights. Now, if you're not familiar, Ilhan Omar was born in Somalia. She referenced Donald Trump's military parade, saying that she was unimpressed. Our president is spending millions of dollars propping himself up like a failed dictator with a military parade. It is really shocking, and it should be a wake-up call for all Americans to say, this is not the country we were born in. This is not the country we believe in, and this is not the country our founding fathers imagined. And this is not the country that is supported by our Constitution, our ideals, our values, and we should all collectively be out in the streets rejecting what is taking place this week. She also said that Trump is, quote, destroying our country. I think the person who is in the process of destroying our country should look in the mirror, and that's Trump, and notice that he is the one that has hatred for the values that we have here in America and everything that we have built. The reality is protest, dissent is constitutionally protected. That is everybody's First Amendment right in this country. Now, some people have called her out on this. Guy Benson from Fox News said the hyperbole here is appalling, made worse by her astounding ingratitude. David Hookstead said if people are seriously offended by a parade for the first time in decades, and go outside and touch some grass. We have the greatest military on the planet, and we shouldn't ever apologize for it. After all, our men died to try to protect innocent lives in Somalia. I guess that sacrifice doesn't matter to Congresswoman Omar. So, 70,000 visas at $5 million a pop. Those people excited to spend that money to become to come here to the United States, and yet Ilhan Omar claims it's one of the worst countries in the world, mainly because we had a military parade. Now, another announcement that is hardly a major breaking news story, and we are going to talk about, of course, Iran and Israel when we come back. But President Donald Trump announced yesterday that he will be putting, quote, up 2 beautiful flagpoles on the North and South White House lawns. It is my great honor to announce that I will be putting up 2 beautiful flagpoles on both sides of the White House, North and South lawns. It is a gift in all capital, from me, of something which was always missing from this magnificent place. The digging and placement of the poles will begin at 7:30 a.m. this morning. Flags will be raised at approximately 11 a.m. These are the most magnificent poles made. They are tall, tapered, rust-proof, rope inside the pole, and of the highest quality. Hopefully, they will proudly stand at both sides of the White House for many years to come. Trump told reporters when this was originally announced back in April that they've needed flagpoles for 200 years. It was something I've often said, they don't have a flagpole. According to ABC News, the White House features 1 flagpole atop its roof, which flies the American flag 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Since 2019, the POW MIA flag has also flown over the White House. While the President of the United States has his own flag depicting an eagle against a dark blue field, it does not fly over the White House. Presidents have some authority over which flags are displayed at the White House. Anyway, I know, not the biggest breaking news story, but nonetheless worth mentioning. Okay, we're going to talk about Iran and Israel. We also, and that's not going to be the whole show, because as I mentioned, we're going to have Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard coming up. I do have a couple of other updates, some media updates. A lot going on in New York State. Got a nice local update. Again, if you are just joining us, Horsehead's budget passed overwhelmingly, the school budget. And in Corning Painted Post, it passed by 58.06%. All right, let's take our first break. Just getting warmed up. Having a good time, though, already. A lot of waves, a lot of comments coming in. Stay with us. We'll be right back, frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And this is the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, where we read viewer comments. This viewer writes in, Democrat Senator Bob Menendez reports for prison. Where is the protest? He is just a New Jersey man. Very good point. Well taken. Thank you very much. Yes, today the day he reported, or yesterday, I guess. He reported to prison for 11 years. Comment from a different viewer. Why doesn't Ilhan Omar, Representative Ilhan Omar, leave the U.S. and her lucrative livelihood and go back to where she came from, Somalia? Sounds like she'd be much happier, and we don't need her anti-American ideas and remarks. Thank you very much. Now let's talk about Iran for just a few sections of this program. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei declared the battle begins in an ominous post yesterday, hours after President Trump demanded an unconditional surrender. Khamenei's sinister message reading, quote, in the name of Hader, the battle begins. I'm not going to read all this because I'm going to mispronounce everything. But the battle begins is the big takeaway. We'll put it that way. Khamenei's sinister message comes hours after the Islamic Republic's state media warned of a surprise on Tuesday night into Wednesday that the, quote, world will remember for centuries. The Israeli Defense Force reported multiple air raid sirens in northern Israel early Wednesday morning due to a hostile aircraft infiltration. Sirens were heard in the Golan Heights before the IDF announced it shot down 3 Iranian drones. Now, Trump confirmed, well, it depends on what news outlet you go to. Some are saying that this confirms the United States has entered into the conflict. I'm not sure if that is completely the case. This is what he posted on Truth Social. We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured quote-unquote stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. Politico White House reporter Jake Traylor confirmed with a White House official that "we" in Trump's post is indeed referring to the United States. The Trump administration was initially wary of Israel's strikes that set off the latest round of fighting, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio quickly insisting that Israel acted unilaterally, if you recall, at the time. Trump also revealing yesterday that we know where al-Khamenei is hiding. But there's the back and forth, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, because I know there's kind of two factions, if you will, of MAGA, and not just MAGA, but one that doesn't want to get involved in another Middle East war. There's the other side that wants to see the end of Iran and the threat that Iran poses to the United States. Because I don't remember who exactly said it, but I thought it was a great point. And it's been made numerous times, so I don't feel like I have to quote this person. But when Iran says death to America, as they do frequently, we need to take them at their word. But Trump saying, "We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out," and then in parentheses, "kill, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention on this matter." It's normally the more forceful ones where we get the "thank you for your attention to this matter" at the end of his post. He convened, meaning Trump, an 80-minute meeting with his top national security officials in the West Wing's Situation Room on Tuesday, a little after 2 p.m., to weigh the legacy-defining decision. And that's one thing that there's a lot of pressure here, because not everyone, most agree that this is really a legacy-defining decision. Whatever decision he makes is going to be a part, obviously, of his record, of his legacy. What direction would you like to see? We've heard from some that don't want to get involved, want to let Israel take the lead. There's others that want to see the end of Iran, the threat to Iran. And we've talked on this program numerous times about the real threat of China, Russia, Iran, the evil axis. Some add North Korea in there as well. One source close to the Pentagon said, "As always, President Trump alone will make the call." Now, the source speculated there's an 80% chance the president would launch airstrikes to support Israel. Now, the Situation Room meeting featured Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard. A source familiar with Trump's deliberation said he likes people who know what they're talking about and are honest with him. Which is very different than how the media presents it. But that's a heck of a situation room. J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, and Tulsi Gabbard. Now, cries in the streets of death to Khamenei, Ayatollah al-Khamenei, filled the night air in Tehran yesterday, or a few days ago, rising above the thunder of Israeli airstrikes, according, and this is a piece by Jonathan Sahi, a Tehran-born research analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, saying the same defiant chorus had echoed through the city the night before, as if the people were rehearsing for the fall of the very system they were raised to fear. After 5 inconclusive rounds of talks between Iran and the U.S., Israel launched its military campaign against the Islamic Republic's leadership last week, and ordinary Iranians are not rallying around the regime. Instead, many are now mocking Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei's fundamental miscalculation when he declared during Trump's first term, quote, "There will be no war, nor will we negotiate." Neither prediction held true. A review of Persian language outlets based outside of Iran, which have broadcast a stream of comments and video updates from Iran residents in recent days, indicates that the conflict is widely seen as a war between Khamenei's regime and Israel, not as an attack on the populace. Many of the callers are blaming the supreme leader, for dragging the people into a pointless war. Ordinary Iranians are falling victim to the decision of one person, Ali Khamenei. We are not compatriots with those who execute our kids. In one June 14th video, young people dance as they watch the Israeli air raids through their windows. They strike, we dance, said one woman. The majority see the Islamic Republic as the instigator, not Israel. The growing divide between the people and the regime's anti-Israel fixation has been evident, especially among Iran's young people. No to Gaza, no to Lebanon. My life for Iran was the youth protest chant of 2009. By 2018, their cries sharpened to death to Palestine. Soccer fans in Tehran repeated such anti-Palestinian slogans in the wake of Hamas's October 7th massacre, as did a group of students whose school administrators tried to lead them in a death to Israel chant. With the regime's propaganda machine in full gear and suppression intensifying, Washington must pursue maximum support for the Iranian people. The Islamic Republic's claim that it is merely defending the national interest has collapsed, and Iranians are making it clear, even in the face of arrest and execution, Khamenei's war is not theirs. Okay, we've got a few other things on this. Yes, about Ayatollah Khamenei. I know I'm kind of butchering it sometimes the way I'm saying it, but whatever. Love to hear your comments on it. If you are just tuning in, if you're just waking up, the Koenig Painted Post area school budget passed yesterday with 58.06%. They just needed to get 50% plus one. Also, the Southeast Steuben County Library passed 59.43%. And for our friends in Horseheads, that budget passed overwhelmingly at 66%. As I mentioned, Sheriff Jim Allard coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. On tomorrow's program, we'll be talking with Kristen Clemens Westervelt. She's running for Steuben County Legislator in the Irwin District. By the way, if you have friends or you are a resident of Irwin, I'd ask you to tune in these next few days because we're going to have, again, each of the candidates running in the primary. The primary is next Tuesday. So we're having each of the candidates so you have a better chance to learn who you'll be voting for on Tuesday, so you can be the most informed. So the first up from Irwin is Kristen Clemens Westervelt on tomorrow's program. On Friday, also running for Steuben County Legislature re-election in Irwin, James Cool. He'll be joining us also on Friday. Friday's a jam-packed show. In the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking with former Congressman, current Assemblyman, Joe Sempolinski. There may be, and I don't want to give too much away, there may be a special guest right before Joe as well. I'll keep you updated on that. Then on Monday, rounding off our Irwin legislature candidates, Drenald Bakari. He joined us. All three of them joined us earlier on the program, previously on the program, but I wanted to get one last chance in case you missed the first round of interviews. Okay, reading your comments when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Our picturesque view of historic Market Street. So beautiful this morning. That view brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you for joining us. If you are just joining us again, the Koenig Painted Post school budget passed yesterday, 58.06%. And the Southeast Steuben County Library prop passed 59.43%. And in Horseheads, overwhelmingly passed 66%. Let's go to viewer comments. Viewer comments brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. I got to put their logo up there. And this is when we read viewer comments. First up, Trump winning on trade. Boy, those tacos are delicious. Trump always crushes the opposition. Yes, I appreciate that. Some very good news on trade. As a matter of fact, I saw the report that import prices signal low inflation, and China is reducing prices to fend off the tariffs. So yes, there's some great news coming out there. Comment from a different viewer. I'm really sorry that the school budget passed, and sadly, people just give up and stay home, or it's out of mind. Maybe if the vote came to our doors, like it does to our educators who just have to stay in place to vote, the outcome would be better. But hey, on the bright side, maybe they can fill our libraries with more filth and rot and harm our children even more. I was concerned about this. I didn't completely express it on the show yesterday, but I did in private conversations. It was all about voter turnout, in my opinion, because last time there was that passion there to say, no. I did not see that same passion. I think a lot of people they said, well, we sent that message on the first one, and that's good enough. Now, Corning Inc., who's not always going to donate, but I guess we'll just keep depending on them. Corning Inc. donating that $1.8 million, and they were, I guess, content enough to say, well, it's at the cap. I'll just have my taxes increase a little bit. I'll never quite understand people in New York State wanting to increase their taxes. But appreciate your comments, everyone. Netanyahu, going back to Israel and Iran, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei as a modern Hitler yesterday and vowed to create the condition for regime change. Cyrus freed the Jews, and today the Jewish state might free the Persians. In the end, they have to rise up themselves, but we are creating the conditions, and that's why it could be consequential. While the regime change in Iran is not necessarily a goal of Operation Rising Lion, Netanyahu said, it wouldn't be a bad bonus. We're going to see a different Middle East, a reality we haven't seen until now, he said. The Arab world has opened up to us, and the threat we face now is Iran. It's either us or them. The Prime Minister claimed that 80% of Iranians hate Iran's Khamenei-led regime, and then referred to Khamenei as a modern Hitler. The Israeli ambassador to the United States, Yeshel Leader, stated that Israel will prosecute this war whether the Ayatollah survives or not. We are not going to allow the Iranian regime under his control to have a nuclear bomb. Whether he's alive or not is irrelevant. Once we take out this race by the Iranian regime to achieve a nuclear bomb, the entire region will change. This is going to be Abraham Accords 2.0, as soon as the Iranian mullahs, with their intentions of eliminating Israel, are neutralized. When host John Berman from CNN's Out Front asked if Israel knows where Iran's supreme leader is, he responded, I'll tell you what I do know. I know that Friday morning, the Ayatollah woke up, he looked over his left shoulder for his nuclear scientists and found none. Then he looked over his right shoulder for his generals of the IRGC, those guys who were spreading the terrorism around the world. He didn't see any of them either. So he's kind of alone right now. He appointed a new chief of staff. He lasted about 4 days. So the Ayatollah may be many stories underground right now and hiding. That's where he belongs. And we're going to prosecute this war whether the Ayatollah survives or not. We are not going to allow the Iranian regime under his control to have a nuclear bomb. Whether he's alive or not is irrelevant. Now, according to a gambling site, not one in the United States, but it's called Polymarket, where you can bet on different world events. Let's just say it skyrocketed on the ouster of Khamenei. The tenure of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Hosseini Khamenei, no, great, now I'm throwing in a middle name just to make it easier, is likely to come to an end this year, according to the majority of gamblers on Polymarket's prediction markets. On Tuesday, Trump dropped several new posts on Truth Social about Iran with some not-so-veiled threats against Khamenei. And that's when the market skyrocketed on the ouster, we'll say, of the supreme leader. Polymarket followed up with a tweet referencing Trump's post calling Khamenei an easy target, saying odds Iran's supreme leader out this year just skyrocketed. Trump just posted this. The current odds on Polymarket's site at the time of this publication of this article shows a 61% chance that Khamenei will be out as supreme leader of Iran in the year 2025. Israeli officials saying that Iran has crossed every red line. It has expanded its uranium enrichment to weapons-grade levels and maintained weapons-related nuclear infrastructure in defiance of international demands. Also, they accused Iran of using diplomacy as a stalling tactic to buy time for advancing its nuclear program. And that has been a concern for quite some time. Senator Ted Cruz was on Hannity's show last night, and he said Israel can take out virtually all of this. The one location that they have a technological challenge with is Fordow. And Fordow is built into the base of a mountain. It's deliberately built to be able to withstand air assault. And America has bunker-busting bombs that could destroy Fordow. And I think it's very much in America's interest to see that nuclear research lab destroyed. Iran is not researching nuclear technology because the Ayatollah is worried about climate change. He's researching nuclear technology for one reason: to create nuclear warheads to be able to murder as many Israelis as he can and as many Americans as he can. And the president is rightly focused. He is not going to let a theocratic lunatic murder Americans. And I will say, again, this is Senator Ted Cruz, there are some in the political debate that are urging the president essentially to be an isolationist, not to engage and not to defend America. Donald J. Trump has never been isolationist. He doesn't want to get us into unnecessary wars. We're not going to see boots on the ground in Iran. But if you look at the first term, President Trump, he utterly destroyed ISIS and their caliphate. He took out General Soleimani, the leading state sponsor of terrorism. He took out al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS. Donald Trump has not hesitated to act when he's protecting American lives. That's exactly what's happening in Israel. We've got a little bit more on this. Read your comments when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. And we are back. That's our beautiful view of Market Street in downtown Corning, of course, in the heart of the Gaffer District. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security need. I ran up to get a glass of tea, and so I didn't get a chance to compile all your comments, but keep your comments coming in, and I will read them in the next segment. CNN suggesting that as Trump is making this kind of legacy-defining, as many are calling it, decision, polls suggest Americans may not be in to helping Israel. Well, maybe when you see kind of the anti-Semitic protests in the street, maybe this shouldn't come as a surprise, as so many young people have been indoctrinated into this anti-Semitism, and we've heard of the, because remember, young people do grow up to be adults, and also when you see even Van Jones admitting that the Democrat Party has been marbled, was his term, with anti-Semitism. But according to CNN, for years now, Americans have been trending in a more isolationist, anti-war direction, particularly on the right. Iran could be about to test that. So your thoughts? I understand the anti-war mentality. I mean, not wanting to be involved in a needless war. But the question I would ask is this needless? If you wipe out Iran's nuclear capabilities, you are not just protecting the United States of America, not just protecting Israel, you're stopping the real threat in all the Middle East. According to Andrew Roberts, and this is an interesting piece, I don't know if I'll be able to get to all of it, but he said on Wednesday, July 3rd, 1940, Winston Churchill had a decision before him as hard as any he ever had to take in his long career of statesmanship. If the Vichy French fleet stationed at Oran and Algeria were to fall into German hands, as seemed highly likely, it would, when combined with the German and Italian navies, pose an existential threat to his country, which after the fall of France was already gearing itself up for the Battle of Britain. The French admiral would neither hand his fleet over to the Royal Navy, scuttle it, nor sail it to Canada. So after some anguished heartache, the lifelong France fan, if you will, Churchill ordered it to be sunk, which it was with the loss of 1,299 French sailors. There are some moments in history when a sudden act of opportune ruthlessness is justified, for a world to head in a safer path. In the Middle East, these include Israel's surprise attacks that saved her from certain invasion on the Six-Day War of 1967. It goes through the whole history. But what this all boils down to is history is in the making. Preemptive action sometimes works, but it requires remarkable leadership qualities. Does President Trump have them, is the question being posed. For if Iran's centrifuges are still spinning in its nuclear facility 300 feet underground at Fordo, then Israel will have only scored a tactical win rather than the strategic victory she needs. The success against the upper echelons of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, military high command, and nuclear scientists are commendable, but not enough. Only the United States has the 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs necessary to shatter Iranian nuclear ambitions. So what does Trump do then? Benjamin Netanyahu certainly feels the weight of history on his soldiers. The son of a distinguished historian and an avid reader of books by and about Churchill, he said 3 days ago, generations from now, history will record our generation stood its ground, acted in time, and secured our common future. He is right, and history could record that about President Trump too, if he acts decisively. So the idea, without reading, again, the whole article, because it is quite lengthy, but he says Donald Trump today has it in his power. And again, this is Andrew Roberts from the Free Press. He said, Donald Trump today has in his power to act with Churchillian ruthlessness and wreck Iran's nuclear and thus regionally strategic ambitions for a generation. I fear he will not do this. However, for as his constant back and forth over tariffs have shown, his bark tends to be much worse than his bite. If he does not, he ought to remove Winston Churchill's bust from the Oval Office, as he should not be able to look in the eyes the man who said at the time of the Munich Agreement in October of 1938, quote, "Do not suppose that this is the end. This is only the beginning of the reckoning. This is only the first sip, the first foretaste of a bitter cup, which will be proffered to us year by year, unless by a supreme recovery of moral health and martial vigor, we arise again and take our stand for freedom as in the old times." So your thoughts on Andrew Roberts' suggestion that Trump must show remarkable leadership qualities if he makes a tough call, a preemptive strike on Iran to thwart the nuclear threat. He does not believe that Trump will do it. Your thoughts? Also, well, that's good. I think that covers, because we have a lot of other things to get to, and we have Sheriff Jim Allard. We can continue to talk about Iran and Israel if you would like. That was kind of my quick overview this morning, which didn't turn out to be that quick. We do have a couple media updates I want to get to, and then New York State issues, because we have a little bit later on Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard as our guest. So if you have any questions for the sheriff, please get them in at any time. By the way, if you are just tuning in, the Corning Paint and Post Area School District budget did pass yesterday after its second attempt. 58.06% voted in favor of the budget. 59.43% voted in favor of the Southeast Steuben County Library proposition. And in Horseheads, 66% voted in favor of their school budget. You hear maybe, perhaps, in the background, the Corning whistle. So let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program. Steuben Senior Services, empowering seniors to age at home. This is the section where we read viewer comments. First up, watching Israel destroy Iran begs the question of why Obama let them humiliate our soldiers and keep the drone they used to start their drone program and guidance for the missiles. And that means Obama let Iran humiliate our soldiers. Thank you very much. Israel stops nuke on all the world. They will not nuke Israel, as winds would bring it back on them. They could let it go off in air over the United States, then darkness. Israel saves itself and us from a nuke. Think of that one to those that hate Israel. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. I'm happy you had real history this morning. Few people understand we were fighting most of Europe during World War II. My father fought French, Italian, and German troops in Northern Africa and Eastern Europeans in Italy. Thank you very much for all the comments. Keep them coming in. As I said, we're going to have Sheriff Allard on in just a little bit. I have to mention this real quickly on media updates, and then we're going to move on. According to the Daily Mail out of the United Kingdom, there's tears on the horizon at CNN as insiders at CNN reveal that many of the big-name quote-unquote stars, when I say big name, you probably don't know who they are, at CNN are on the chopping block after the parent company's shock split. Warner Brothers Discovery's shock split into that's a lot of wording, into two distinct companies is a sign the jobs and hefty salaries of CNN's top talents are on the line, according to media insiders. The media giant announced last week it will have into two publicly traded entities, streaming and studios and global networks. I don't want to get into all the media wonkiness of this, but you've got some big, quote-unquote, big names. Caitlin Collins been getting an earful from the president recently. What we're looking at, for instance, why would they pay Anderson Cooper $18 million a year when Caitlin Collins draws the same ratings at roughly a fifth of the salary? Also, I would ask, why is CNN paying the male lead 5 times more than the female lead? Just out of curiosity. Suggesting there's going to be tears on the horizon at CNN. Someone that used to work at CNN, Jim Acosta, made a disgusting joke yesterday and is being called on the carpet for it. Ex-CNN correspondent Jim Acosta joked in an interview about President Trump's deceased former wife's burial site and called her an example of an immigrant, quote, doing the job that Americans don't want to do. Thinking, this is one of the biggest problems Acosta always had. He thinks he's funnier. He thinks he's more clever than he is. He's too cute by half, as they say. He thinks that he is a comedian in some ways, and he is clearly not. He said, how many immigrants has he married, meaning Trump? He's got one buried at his golf course in New Jersey. Isn't she buried by the first hole or the second tee or something like that? Immigrants always doing the job that Americans don't want to do, was his punchline. Wow, that's horrible. And that's in reference to Ivana. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt told Fox News Digital in response, Jim Acosta is a disgraceful human being. Very much so. And I just mentioned that because, remember, he was a major voice on CNN for quite some time. We're going to take a short break. I've got one other update, then we're going to get to New York State issues. We do have the sheriff coming up, reading your comments when we come back. Getting ready to wrap up our number one, hard to believe again, if you are just joining us. The Corning Pain and Post Area School District budget passed with 58.06% support. The library prop passed as well. And in Horseheads, their school budget passed with 66% support. Your thoughts on that, your questions for the sheriff, your comments, keep sending them into that number on the bottom of your screen, your waves, and we'll be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, empowering seniors to age at home, as we read viewer comments. Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. It's what's worth talking about Wednesdays with Mark. Thank you. Candidate for mayor of New York City is detained by ICE. Yes, he's also the New York City comptroller. I guess this is a way for them to show they're part of the resistance, make a name for themselves, fundraise. We'll see more of this. It's all, the first time it happens, it's weird to use their term. It's, off-putting. But then when someone has to repeat it and then someone else repeats it, it just gets kind of pathetic. But he may have needed it. He's nowhere near Cuomo or that far left socialist. I can't remember what his name is. Mamdani. So maybe this is his way of doing it. Continuing with what Mark had to say, other what's worth talking about. Trump holds national security meeting on the Middle East fighting and wants Iran to surrender. Yes, we mentioned that earlier in the program. Joey Chestnut is returning to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, and TikTok gets an extension. Yes, we didn't mention TikTok, but we talked about Joey Chestnut on yesterday's program, actually, when the story broke. Big news there. Glad he's coming back to the July 4th hot dog eating contest. Fan of Joey Chestnut. Full disclosure, interviewed Joey Chestnut a few times. Really nice guy. I would also add on to that just a little bit, Mark, if I may. I don't want to take away what's worth talking about Wednesdays with Mark, but I think I would also add on there that according to Painted Post Area School District budget passed 58.06%, and the Horsehead school budget passed 66%, just to keep people updated on what's going on. Okay, quickly. Rich Lowry has a good point, and he says he's talking about New York City and other jurisdictions debating the mask bans that we have been very supportive of on this program. Because you have these anti-Semitic protesters using it so they won't get in trouble in any way. And you have the most iconic image of the Los Angeles riot involving a man on a dirt bike waving a Mexican flag, and he's wearing a mask. It's not surprising that he was wearing a mask. At this point, failing to wear a mask when engaging in lawless activity is a major faux pas, like wearing white before Memorial Day or showing up at LA's upscale restaurant 71 Above in flip-flops. Embattled New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been empathetic that there needs to be a return to the broad ban on masks that was repealed during the pandemic. The meaning of the mask has changed in recent years. Prior to COVID, wearing a surgical mask in public likely meant someone had a compromised immune system. During COVID, it usually meant someone was complying with the pandemic rules and associated social pressures. After COVID, it tends to indicate either someone is too neurotic to give up pandemic-era practices or wants to harass Jews or throw rocks at cops. In an era of facial recognition technology, a face mask is a bid to foil efforts by police to track down lawless acts after the fact. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Masked rioters are sometimes arrested on the spot. But it's a layer of protection for the person hoping to break or burn something and melt away without consequences. This is why, prior to COVID, masks outside of a medical context tended to have a negative connotation in the popular imagination. The one exception, the Lone Ranger. But anyway. Otherwise, the masked man was going to... Well, anyway, he's going to mention that too. But in 1990, Georgia's Supreme Court ruling upheld the state's mask ban, said, quote, a nameless, faceless figure strikes terror in the human heart. Certainly after seeing what's gone down on the streets after the killing of George Floyd and on college campuses since October 7th, everyone should be on edge when encountering masked protesters. If nothing else, it's not a good sign when people are afraid of being associated with their own cause or the means with which they are going to agitate for it. New York first banned masks in the 1840s in response to protesters harassing landlords. Later in the 20th century, states prohibited face coverings to address the KKK. The bans either went unenforced or were repealed during COVID. Masks went from being a symbol of outlaw behavior to the symbol of good citizenship, according to Dr. Anthony Fauci. Even if you recall, during the protests in the summer of 2020, Cuomo asked protesters to mask up. Cuomo's successor, Governor Kathy Hochul, went in the opposite direction after seeing masked agitators menace Jewish rioters on the subway last year. She came out in favor of restricting masks and supported the watered-down change recently passed by the legislature. Yeah, what recently passed was relatively pathetic. The issue won't go away in New York or elsewhere. The mask is now part of the kit of rioters for whom the convenient concealment is as indispensable as a Klansman's white hood. So Rich Lowry comparing the masked rioters that we saw in LA and elsewhere to the Klan hood of the 21st century. And that's a point we've made on this program in the past, but I thought it was a good point to reiterate. As we wrap up hour number one, keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. As I said, Sheriff Jim Allard will be our guest coming up in just a little bit. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. It's hour number two of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are just waking up, you missed a great first hour. But let's take a look at the school budgets. The Painted Post Area School District budget passed, being supported by 58.06% of the voters. That's 2,128 yes votes, 1,537 no votes. Also, the Southeast Steuben County Library proposition passed with 59.43% support. In Horseheads, the school budget passed at 66% support. Okay, we've got some New York State issues. A couple comments I see came in right after I went back on the air. We'll get to those in our next segment. In this hour, Sheriff Jim Allard will be our guest. Spread the word, because especially if you are in the Irwin area, the next 3 days we'll have a candidate for Steuben County Legislature running in the district that encompasses Irwin. There is a 3-way primary. Primary day is next Tuesday. I know this is getting complicated because you've got essentially voters have been asked to vote 3 times in basically a month, twice for school budget, now for the primary on Tuesday, coming up on Tuesday. We're going to be highlighting that. One of the guests we're going to have on Friday, Joe Sempolinski, who is a former congressman and current assemblyman, also happens to be the Steuben County Republican chair. He's going to be joining us just to give you an update on the primaries, to give you all the information you need to know. But if you are in Irwin, spread the word, or you know someone in Irwin, spread the word, because we're going to have the 3 candidates running for Steuben County Legislature. So today we have Sheriff Allard. Tomorrow we have Kristen Clemens Westervelt. She is running for Steuben County Legislature in Irwin. Friday, James Kuhl, who's running for re-election for Steuben County Legislature in Irwin. We're also going to have a special guest after James Kuhl on Thursday. Or on Friday, and I can't give that away yet. And then on Friday as well, in the 7 o'clock hour, Joe Sempolinski, fan favorite. And then Monday, Drenald Bakari, who is also running for Steuben County Legislature in Irwin. I know that was a lot. A lot of comments coming in. Keep them coming in. I want to start the 7 o'clock hour because we had some doom and gloom and some pretty tough questions we asked in the first hour. But I want to start with this because last year we had a great interview with the Corning girls rugby team because they won state champions. And we've got to get another interview going because they did it again this year. How amazing. So I want to put the picture up and tell you a little bit about what's happening with them. There they are. There's the team. A legislative resolution that was sponsored by State Senator Tom O'Mara and State Assemblyman Phil Palmisano honored the Corning Rugby Club for winning the 2025 Rugby NY High School Girls Championship. The Corning rugby team, there they are, champions. How exciting. They defeated Orchard Park, which I believe we learned last year is their arch nemesis, their rivals. They defeated Orchard Park 29-10 to capture the championship back on May 31st at Syracuse University's Ballantyne Field. The victory capped the team's, listen to this, undefeated 6-0 rugby season. So there's an official legislative resolution approved by the State Senate and Assembly, and it was presented to the coaches and players at the team's athletic banquet on Monday night in Corning. It pays tribute. I can't go through each name of the team, but we'll put them back up as I read the joint statement. That's what I'll do. Yeah. We'll read the joint statement here as I show you the team. They were presented with this, and you see it there in the middle. O'Mara and Palmisano said, quote, "We appreciate this opportunity to congratulate and pay tribute to the Corning Rugby Club, on their outstanding season that led to the ultimate achievement of a state championship. It's an opportunity to recognize and honor the dedication, excellence, hard work, and success of these remarkable student athletes who help our school communities stand out. They represent inspiring stories and stand as a source of enormous pride to the entire Corning Painted Post School District, as well as their families and friends and community at large, and our entire region." Now, Bob McGee, who's the director of rugby, let me get that off the screen there. The director of rugby for the Corning Rugby Club said, "This championship was a culmination of years of hard work for a very talented senior group that has helped lay the foundation for the younger players and set the expectation for future teams. We talk a lot about leaving the club in a better place than where you left it, or than when you joined, This group of girls, through their play in the Elite Girls Rugby League and their success in Rugby New York competition, have set the standard that future leaders need to reach and work towards exceeding." So congratulations. We always like to hear great news, and that is wonderful news. I'm big fans of the Corning rugby team and learning all about them on the program last year. A great piece coming from the New York Post that I want to get to. An attorney general who helps bad guys and targets cops? Yep. Say hello to New York's Attorney General, Letitia James. You'd think the job of a state attorney general is to hunt down the bad guy, or at least help other law enforcement nab them. But just try telling that to New York Attorney General Letitia James, who's now busy targeting good guys, i.e. local law enforcement officers, who, heaven forbid, even think about helping the feds detain illegal immigrants. As we reported earlier this week, James has demanded the Oswego County's Sheriff Office hand over documents that may show cooperation with federal agencies such as ICE and Homeland Security. This follows her similar bullying of Nassau County Sheriff's Office in the wake of reports that it had the nerve to help the feds enforce immigration law. Sources say she's likely to target more counties. To James, it seems, aiding immigration enforcement is a crime of the century, so she'll use all her power to stop it. Now, doesn't her office have better things to do? Maybe go after Trump again? Yes, we know New York's wacko statutes and executive orders by Governor Cuomo and Kathy Hochul purport to restrict local cops' efforts to help federal agents enforce immigration law. Yet surely there's enough work for her staff to focus on. Crime statewide, for starters, rose 31% from 2019 to 2023 and 46% in the city. Where's James and company been? Besides, 80% of New Yorkers want the feds to boot illegal migrants who've been convicted of crimes, according to a Siena poll. 80%. Then again, James also used her office to go to war on President Donald Trump and anyone who does his bidding. For years, rarely a day goes by without her taking some legal action against him or his team. Just last week, she sued Trump for moving to overturn California's EV mandates the day before for deploying the National Guard to LA. Not to mention her attempt to bankrupt Trump to keep him from running back in 2024. Of course, James spent her years as New York City's public advocate, filing endless Hail Mary lawsuits. None of it did much for regular New Yorkers, but it raised her profile enough to let her grab the AG job after scandal forced out Eric Schneiderman. But sorry, endless pandering to the Democrat Party's left-wing base isn't a serious statewide winner, even in New York. The press corps, most of which is part of that base, may eat it up, but most voters won't. They still think public servants are supposed to serve the public. I thought that was a great piece from the Post editorial board. And also, I would highlight that, yes, she thinks this is a winning issue. If I were a Democrat, I would still be blaming her and Alvin Bragg for that lawfare as one of the reasons, and there was many reasons, but one of the reasons why Trump won re-election. Yes, the New York City mayoral candidate and current comptroller Brad Lander was arrested by ICE agents at an immigration court yesterday in a chaotic, caught-on-camera moment that will likely give his humdrum mayoral campaign a little bit of a boost. The Progressive Democrat spent about 4 hours in custody before he ambled out of 26 Federal Plaza, escorted by his wife and by Governor Kathy Hochul, and announced the assault and obstruction charges against him were dropped. This is a lot more of this political show, this theater that we've been talking about. We saw with Senator Padilla. Once it happens to one person, and they see somebody making political hay off of it, you're always going to have kind of the pathetic copycats after the fact. It's, yes, you look at it and you may, I hate the term, but cringe. Prepare yourself to see more of this. He said, "I'm happy to report I'm just fine. I lost a button." Now, he's been polling third behind Cuomo and socialist Zoran Mondani. When Landers was asked if he hoped to pull a political stunt at the courthouse, he said this was his third visit in recent weeks to the immigration hearings. I think that answers itself. Third time, finally I got what I wanted, right? Eye-popping video showed Lander being manhandled and cuffed by the feds after the comptroller vocally protested masked federal agents hauling away a man whom the comptroller later identified as Eduardo. Enough on that. We do have a little bit more on it, but I want to read your comments. I want to take a break because I don't want to run too late. We're waiting for Sheriff Jim Allard to arrive. Excitingly await his arrival. Again, if you are just joining us, if you are just waking up, the Corning Painting Post School District budget passed 58.06% in support. The Southeast Steuben County Library proposition passed as well. And in Horseheads, their school budget passed with 66% support. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, where we read viewer comments. Steuben Senior Services, empowering seniors to age at home. First up, Mark writes in, as far as Trump joining Israel or not joining Israel in the Middle East fight, he will be wrong in the eyes of the Democrat Party. Oh, and the media as well. There's no winning there. So, yeah, you've got to prepare that with every decision Trump makes, that there's never going to be a winning decision if you pay attention to the media and if you pay attention to the Democrat talking points. Next up, we got so many comments, and the sheriff's coming in, but we'll finish our comments, then we'll take a short break, and then we'll be back with the sheriff. But we'll continue with comments here. The out-of-touch school district is the tip of the iceberg. New York State is so screwed up, it makes more sense to move than to stay. Thank you. A comment from a different viewer. You can sit down. You're not on camera. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning.
We're just reading our comments, catching up here.
It's a beautiful day today.
It always is. We'll be with you in just a second. A shout out to Nick Langworthy, writes one viewer, and his showdown with Kathy Hochul. Might be a great clip to share, as you did with Phil Palmisano, who I also appreciate. Thank you, Nick. And of course, yours truly, Mr. Acom. Well, thank you. How nice is that? Coming from a different viewer. As for the Corning school budget, I think we've been fooled, at least some. I didn't see where they made many cuts or concessions. Corning Inc. made up the difference, and it passed. What happens next year? I also think Corning Inc. didn't do this for their employees. If so, what happens when Addison or Campbell and many other school districts have the same problem? Are they going to save them all? We need more responsible spending, period. All right, let's take a short break. We'll read more comments. Get your questions. The sheriff's in the studio, so stay with us. Welcome back. Yeah, I know. Really interesting. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking, the Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, Sheriff Jim Allard. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, first of all, I've got to remind viewers that this interview brought to you by Steuben County Office for the Aging, committed to maximizing quality of life, safety, and independence. There is so much news going on. Where do you want to begin? I know what the biggest breaking story is. I got to ask. How's the garden?
The garden is in.
The garden
is doing great, yeah. It's
Yeah.
all planted, and it's doing very well. This is going to be a wonderful year for the garden, I think, with all the rain we've had, and we might even get some sun today.
Maybe.
It's warm out there right now.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah.
This has been a really successful program. It hasn't been that long,
Yes.
has it?
Actually, we started it in 2014.
Oh, okay, so it has been.
That's when we started it with 2 beds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now we're up to 10 or 12, I forget which.
Oh, that's exciting.
And guess what we're planting next?
What?
Fruit trees.
Oh, okay. Well, I think these are all great ideas.
We're moving into fruit trees. I tried to talk them into grapes so we could do some Crowbar Hotel wine, but
No, they won't.
that didn't get any traction.
No, that wasn't. Well, it probably did from some people. Some people
Inside
probably, yeah,
love it.
they loved it. Now, it seems like, unfortunately, every time we do this interview, we do kind of start on the county, because we do need an
Right.
update. Unfortunately, in today's media climate, we're not getting updates on this, and that could be for various reasons.
That's been historical
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the county, is that they're very quiet about the things they're doing. You know, I've been doing a lot of research into it, and when they voted to not appeal, the legislature did.
Right.
But then the message was, well, we have to let Mr. Vanette and Mr. Wheeler appeal because they're named in it.
Right.
And I thought, you know what, that's true if it was actually a lawsuit.
Right.
If they were actually being sued, that's a true statement. But in the misdirection that we've become accustomed to,
Exactly.
what they're not saying is how many times in an Article 78 where someone is named in their capacity
Yeah.
have they paid for the appeal? And I'm betting the answer is 0.
0. Well, this is why, and last time I was kind of embarrassed to ask you on the show, but I do know now because you filled us in, but I still don't really understand what they're appealing.
There's nothing to appeal.
No.
And I think that's why it's taken them so long to actually do anything with it, because I know from Foyles that they've spent considerable amount of money having Coughlin Gerhardt specifically research the appeal. So they've spent more of your tax money to research how can we possibly maybe appeal this. And, you know, again, it's up, we're up over $250,000 now that they've spent between attorney, especially in attorney fees, but also in attorney fees to try and justify their actions. Again, the results of which no voter will ever see.
No. And so $250,000 at least.
Yes.
And I'm sure
And
as it
climbing.
unfolds, and wasn't their argument at the beginning was to save taxpayers money?
Yeah, I was going to bankrupt the county, if you recall. That was the statement that was made.
Yeah. And so they had the extension on the appeal that we talked about last time, but that's got to be coming up close. Have you heard anything?
I have not.
No, but I mean we're looking at 30 days within. I would say
within a week.
Yeah, give or take.
So in typical county fashion, if they're going to do anything, it'll be at 11 o'clock on the final day.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I can't believe we're still talking about this.
Well, and it's, as I do more research, so this is the other part of it is, if they hadn't done these things, I wouldn't be continually researching them.
Right.
And I wouldn't be learning just how bad it was.
Yeah.
And just how bad the advice that they got was, and just how bad that the legislature was misled by those that are supposed to counsel and advise. The county charter is very clear. If you change the power or authority of any elected official, that has to go out to a permissive referendum.
Right.
So saying that I had to purchase insurance or I couldn't do my duties or receive my pay, I would say would fall under that category.
Yeah.
And should have been to a permissive referendum before they even thought about voting on it.
Yeah. And do you find yourself, because you are doing the research and you've been dealing with this so long, I know in the past, I'm sure, it was, especially at the very beginning, very discouraging for you. You've spoke on that in the past.
Yep.
What are your feelings on it now as it just keeps continuing?
It's just disgust.
Yeah, disgust.
It is. I'm just disgusted with the lack of transparency, disgusted with the lack of professionalism and the lack of leadership and the willingness to do things that they know are wrong, but it's not wrong until someone catches us.
Yeah.
And then we'll defend it and say, we won't say it's right,
Right.
but we'll defend it till the death to say we didn't do wrong.
Right. And this
What kind of a perspective is that to lead from?
What kind of system? Yeah, it shows a lack of leadership, obviously, clearly. And when you say almost like catch them, because of the executive sessions, people don't know what's going on at the county level.
Correct.
And I know at the very beginning when we first started talking about this, there was two reasons that even Chemung residents were upset, that you are an elected official.
Correct.
So they were trying to take not only defund the police, which we know that term, but also take, like we saw with Trump, they were trying to take away the voters' will.
Yes.
Right.
And they were trying to do election engineering, is what it comes down to.
Right. And so that was one. And the second part that people would get outraged is because they'd say, why didn't you report on this before? Or why didn't we know anything about this? Because everything was executive sessions.
Right.
And voters don't like executive sessions.
Even the vote. So even the vote to appeal was done in executive session.
Yeah.
How ridiculous is that?
After I mean, I know I say this every time, but the Supreme Court made pretty crystal clear. Let's ease up on let's ease up on the executive sessions.
How about we follow the open meeting law and become a transparent government?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be wild?
Heaven forbid.
I
know. But you used the term disgusted, and I think after hearing from some of the candidates, not all, but this is the first time in recent memory that we've had this kind of action when it comes to primaries.
It is.
And
I can never remember a primary for a legislative seat.
No, ever. So most of the time they're running unopposed completely. And now this year we've got all three candidates in Irwin coming up again for kind of the second round.
I saw that.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
That's cool.
Everybody on. But do you think when you talk to people, do you think that's what's led to this resurgence in primary interest?
Well, I think that the county government is obviously broken in the way in which it runs.
Right.
And people are seeing that now and going, how did we let this happen? Because a lot of our tax money goes to the county government, and they really hold great sway on what's done. You look at our roads and public safety now with the ambulance service, all of those things.
Right.
It's really a tremendous amount of everyday life.
Right.
And so if by not paying attention, we've allowed it to get to the state that it's in, now people are starting to pay attention. And I'm excited.
Yeah.
Because, through all of the principled policing and police reform and all of those things, we're completely transparent. We have to be.
Exactly.
Let's see that in our county government.
Yeah.
Let's see that transparency, and let's see a commitment to doing the right thing the first time. Let's see a commitment to following the spirit of the law rather than looking for loopholes to do what we want to do.
Right.
And I think that people are paying attention, and that's why this primary is so important.
It really is.
Because you've got You've got some folks that have voted for this $250,000 and voted to keep everything in secret consistently since they've been at the county. And you've got other folks that are going, whoa, time out.
Right.
We need to fix this. We need to fix it now.
Yes. And I'm encouraged. I know I talked to you about this probably the last 2 times, but even in private conversation, I was really, really encouraged when I was taking out petitions how many people were aware of this.
Yes.
Because you never know. In today's media climate, there isn't a lot of coverage.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I was telling you off the air, the Hornell Sun, I love the job that they do because it's such a great local outlet. And you would think Hornell, but they cover stuff even our way. Right. And they covered our last interview and have done a great job of as best as they can. But it goes back to the point,
excuse me,
you're not getting anything from the county. And if they're in executive session, you can't, there's nothing to report there.
Right. And again, that's hide behind closed doors mentality just raises the alarm of people of what are they doing?
Yeah.
And if it's not transparent, it appears, whether it is or not, it has the appearance of inappropriateness, possibly illegalness, if that's even a word. Illegality.
We'll allow it. You watch this show
I'm going to throw a towel on that one. But it gives you that appearance of they're doing stuff they hadn't ought to do.
Yeah.
And that's why they're hiding it.
Well, when you talk about PR and optics, right?
Yes.
2 very important words when it comes to politics.
Yes.
The PR and the optics look horrible, even if there isn't anything to hide.
Correct.
So it's never good to be behind closed doors.
No, and if you noticed on when they did vote on the whether or not to appeal in executive session, there was a large group that said we should not be in executive session.
Right.
I'm sorry to beat up your equipment again.
Yeah, sorry.
That said no, let's stay open. And they were defeated by a small group that said, no, we have to stay secret.
Yeah. Someday, they could write a book about this someday.
It really is. It could be a study in broken government.
It really could because, there's all these tell-all books or whatever about Biden now, and we hear about what it was like behind the scenes. I would love to know what happened behind the scenes. And also, I think it speaks a little bit to some of the, elected leaders who were duped, because I think some were just outright duped.
I think they were tricked, yes.
Yeah, and I think that speaks a little bit to, again, because they're in a position of leadership, were they ready for that position of leadership?
Right.
Is the question you've got to ask. And that's
that's the question the voters got to ask. Coming up very soon is, did you vote the way you did because you were tricked, or did you vote the way you did because you believe that was the right thing to do?
Right. Is either a good answer?
No.
Okay, I think we're on the same page there. All right, we got to take a short break. A lot of comments coming in. If you are just joining us, though, the Corning County Post Area School District, that's another thing. 3 votes. We're asking the voters to go out for 3 different votes in a month.
I know.
People are confused. But there were the 2 school budgets, and then we got the primaries. Primaries coming up next Tuesday, and we're going to be reminding you.
And you can vote early.
You can vote. You can vote now. Yeah.
Yes.
If you're out Bathway, get it out of the way so you don't forget.
I always vote early.
Do you?
I do because
I did during the presidential.
And I know you got to go to a break.
No, you're fine. No,
I've been stuck where I didn't vote in the morning before I left, and then I get out on something, and I can't get back before 9.
Oh, good point. Yeah, because we talked about it and we have time. But the presidential election, I went out and voted early because we were told to.
Yeah,
and I said, why not? I wanted the sticker that said I voted early. Right. A different sticker to add to my collection. But I liked it because you get thinking, well, what if you don't feel good that day?
Right.
Or what if you don't want to spread if you got something's going around, or you get busy at work. So why not? If you're out Bathway, go and vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how the turnout's been. Have you heard anything?
I have not. I'm going to find out today because I'm going to go vote early today.
All right. Perfect. Let me know. All right. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Yes, Corning County Post school budget passed, and so did Horsehead. So we'll be right back. Frankly Speaking, after this, stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that studio, Sheriff Jim Allard. We got a couple questions, a couple comments. I don't think they're all in relationship to you, but we'll see. Ken writes in, I have never heard about anything that James has done, Letitia James, for the people of New York. Her political plan has been to work as hard as possible to be known as a loyal conservative-hating, NRA-hating, Trump-hating Democrat, and hopes that the New York hands her and pushes her to the governorship. She stepped back from running for the New York governorship last time at the Democrat leadership's request. I assume that she agreed to wait until 26 to attempt another run. She may. I still think, if I'm a Democrat, I couldn't stand her. Because she really helped, I think, put Trump over the edge. What did Trump say back during the campaign that I'm one indictment away from the White House again.
Right.
And it's true.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the many issues why Trump won.
Yep.
All right,
and she has obviously not helped with the recent crisis in corrections.
Yeah.
She has not helped in law enforcement whatsoever. As the chief law enforcement officer for the state, she has been a horrible detractor of law enforcement.
Yeah. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Very disappointed that the school budget passed. I still believe that if you don't use the schools for anything, you shouldn't have to pay for it. Thank you very much. Yes, Corning, Painted Post, and Horseheads both passed kind of overwhelmingly. Okay, we could talk. There's so many national issues, too, but you just mentioned corrections. Mm-hmm. Are there any updates on, the poor corrections officers that suffered for so long without any pay?
Yeah, so we hired over a dozen. Immediately after that, they were contacted by the state saying they would bring them back at their former pay.
Yeah.
With no loss. But they had to sign saying they would never strike again. This is what was reported to me.
Okay.
I didn't read it. And that they were basically on a probation for 3 months or 3 years.
3 years, okay.
3 years. If you act up, you can be gone. So we lost, of the dozen we hired, 5 went back.
Okay.
The rest stayed.
Yeah.
2 left altogether, said we're leaving corrections forever.
I couldn't blame them.
Yeah. I just had a deputy that resigned to go be an electrician.
Good.
He said it's not the career that it was when I started.
It doesn't give him the same charge.
I
I
was calling him Sparky for the last week. There,
I don't even feel good about that.
So, but there are even since that has been offered, there's been another 600 that have resigned.
Yeah.
From the state. So we're all hopeful of picking some more up, but all of this, and they only decertified the folks that are working for counties.
Okay.
The ones that came back didn't get decertified. So what's that tell you about the integrity of that system?
Could this have been handled any more poorly? It reminds me of legalizing marijuana.
Well, yeah.
It's just done. It's like the Wild Wild West. Hochul says something, and they don't know how to reach the conclusion.
And what we're seeing in the last week of Assembly and Senate is now they're trying to double down on the Commission of Corrections, which is a 3-person board which oversees all corrections in the state of New York.
Okay.
They set the policy in accordance with correction law, and then they come out like we get audited 4 times a year by them.
Oh, okay.
Every place does. Mm-hmm. Now they want to change it from 3 professionals to a 9-person board appointed by the Assembly, including a convicted felon as one of the members of the board, to tell us how to run jails.
Well, they would have insider info on
They
this.
would, yeah.
But they may not have your best interest at heart.
Well, they may not have the best interest in the safety and security of the facility at heart. So who knows if that's going through or not. That was on the docket for the last couple of days.
And 9-person, man.
And they elect their own chair.
Yeah,
it's not appointed by the governor's office.
And if people don't realize how scary that is, every time we talk about one-party rule on this program, so if the Assembly gets to say who's on that, and one being a felon.
Well, and it takes the control away from the governor's office, too. So that's something I'm seeing over the past 2 weeks is anything that takes control away from the governor's office and puts it back in the hands of the Assembly, that's being pushed through.
Yeah. Speaking of Governor
Hochul, things aren't good in Oz.
Yeah, no, I know. But you heard that one comment that someone made about Nick Langworthy and Elise Stefanik, too, going after Hochul. How great was that? What do you think, because we talked about this together on this program before, but the sanctuary policies that we have, I'm so glad she was called to task on it. Also, she is not that good on her feet, is she?
No.
Off the cuff.
No, that's why I say I would love to see her and Elise Stefanik do a debate.
Oh,
I would pay to see. I would buy popcorn instead of front row.
It would be very rare. I mean, I'm kind of nerdy, so I like the debates, but that's why I wanted to be the head of the UN so bad.
Well, but talking about sanctuary state, just last week, Oswego County Sheriff's Office got subpoenaed by Letitia James for all policies, documents, etc., concerning immigration. Yeah. So what's that tell you?
Exactly.
And they're on the border. They're on the northern border.
But what is it like in your dealings when it comes to sanctuary policies? Do you have what have you had to experience? Anything?
No, actually, we're going to the legislature later this month to get authorization to enter into an agreement with ICE so that we can have some of our folks trained to be able to look in their system and use their system so that we don't have to ask, are you or aren't you?
Okay.
If they're in our jail, we can automatically look and see if it's somebody that ICE is looking for so that we can facilitate that turnover when they're done with their charges or whatever here locally. I think that's a great idea. And it also takes away the burden of having to ask.
Right.
So I'm all about working with our federal partners in any way that we can. And again, if they're in our jail and they're not supposed to be in our country,
right,
why in the world wouldn't we make sure and facilitate that handoff to ICE?
Yeah. I mean, all of this seems like no-brainer, but like you said, Letitia James has a different opinion. Governor Hochul has a different opinion.
Yes, they do.
But I would highly recommend to anybody, if you haven't watched that testimony or whatever you want to call it, that hearing,
Parts of it was brutal.
Oh, yeah.
It was brutal.
It was kind of almost awkward to watch because Governor Hochul doesn't. You could tell she wasn't going to be governor and was put in that position.
Right.
Whatever you think about Andrew Cuomo, he was still a politician, right?
Yes.
And he could glad hand and he could do all that stuff. She just comes off very, very awkward. And
well, in what I saw in those interviews or interrogations, whatever you want to call them, she is arrogant, and she is not able to speak quickly on her feet in the same league that those other folks
not even close. Like you said, I can't wait for that debate. Hopefully that debate. Couple comments before we go to break. Since the legalization of marijuana, has the DUI rate gone up?
Yeah.
That's kind of
it.
Is that something that you're running into a lot more now that it's, because I even noticed on Market Street, people driving by, I know they can walk on the street with it.
Yeah.
But I see people driving by and you can smell it after they pass by.
They're not supposed to, but cars will go by and you'll be like, whoa.
Yeah. It looks like my car's always running with smoke, but it's just because it's a junker. But you see those?
Frank.
Yeah, right. But you see them billing out like Uncle Buck. Remember the movie?
Yes.
and you smell it when they're 2 blocks away.
Spicoli.
Yeah, exactly. That too. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. But frankly speaking, after this. Frankly Speaking, Roof Can brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And this is the Steuben County Office for the Aging section of our program. And joining us in the studio, Sheriff Jim Allard. Okay, a couple comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Seniors should not be paying $21 per 1,000 of assessed value, more like $10 or less. We already put our kids through school, and that's in reference to the school budget passing in both Corning Painted Post and in Horseheads. Now, this one's for you. I wonder, from a different viewer, I wonder if Sheriff Allard has any feedback so far about the New York State boating course. I, for one, got it done, but I must say I had a few choice words along the way.
I wonder if they did the online or if they did the in-person, because honestly, I had, it's a person that works here in DPW at Corning, reached out after he took the in-person one from us and just raved about the quality of the instruction.
Oh, great.
And how good the instructors were, it's always nice to hear.
Yeah, that is nice.
It's always nice to hear.
Now, how's it been now that the weather has broke sometimes?
Right.
Don't get started in that, but we are going to ask you about that. But have you had a lot of issues with people?
No, we haven't. And we're just getting into our enforcement season too, so we'll see where it goes from here. But the biggest thing on the boating issues was the no boating and then limited boating at the lakes after the last storm, and we're back to normal now. So
good.
We'll start getting folks out there. But by and large, I presented to Keuka Lake Association. I presented to Lamoka Juanita Lake Association. By and large, everybody realizes it and is on board with getting it.
Yeah.
So one guy asked me how much the fine would be, and I said $250, and he said, I guess I'll get it.
Yeah. How bad has it been, though? You mentioned the weather, and it's been closed off. How bad was it at the Sheriff's Office dealing with these weather events?
So DPW is doing a phenomenal job, the county DPW, in all of the towns and villages, because it's a lot of road repair going on. It wasn't like before where, luckily whole sections were washed out, but there are a lot of roads that are washed out underneath, and they're working very diligently to get that done, and God bless them for the work they're doing, and stay safe out there.
Right.
Because not everybody is patient when you go down to one lane traffic. And we support them with traffic enforcement whenever they request it. But the lakes are pretty much back to normal now.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of stuff floating though, so be careful.
Yeah,
Tubing and skiing and all that.
We had the cardboard boat regatta up at Watkins.
Yeah, how was that?
Oh, it was a blast.
I want to do that someday.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
I do.
You should. But they had to clean up all the debris from it, and it was bad.
Yeah.
It was very bad.
Yeah, they had a lot of runoff too.
But it was a fun time.
Yeah. It always looks fun.
It's got to be so cold in that water.
I know.
I feel horrible for them. We had a question from a viewer earlier. Oh, by the way, that viewer wants you to know that it was online. So those choice words weren't for you or anybody else for the computer. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Last time we talked, there was talks of getting more deputies. Any word on that?
So it's passed Public Safety and Corrections and Finance to add 2 more right now. Mm-hmm. And it'll go to the full edge at the end of this month, another week, next Monday.
Okay.
And so we'll be adding 2 more now. And then what I was told is they will run some more data through 911 and then look at the budget and through the budget process.
Okay.
Which is, I don't want a ton at once. I want to space it out and slowly build it to where it needs to be. But even if it's 1 a year or 2 a year, let's keep progressing and let's keep moving to where we need to be, because for many, many years it's been under-resourced, and let's be realistic and plan ahead.
Right.
That's my goal.
Does it seem to have the support?
It does.
Okay, good.
It really does.
Okay, good. We do have to get another short break here. Get your last minute questions in, because we're going to end on a couple of good notes too, because we got some fun events coming up. You've got some fun events coming up. I want to talk about that. A couple other things as well. So stay with us. Get your last second questions in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and this is the Steuben County office for the aging section of our program. Joining us in the studio, Sheriff Jim Allard. We got a question from a viewer. This is from Ernie. He says, I have a question for the sheriff. The large farms around here hire illegals at times. And he ties in with the old Tennessee Ernie Forward song, 16 tons, because it reminds him of the coal mines and the unions.
Right.
Have you noticed any kind of uptick in illegal immigration in our area?
I have not, but I do know that, we're largely agricultural based, especially the wineries and the vineyards, and they depend on that workforce.
Right.
So, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it.
Right.
I think that's all the government is asking is let's do it the right way.
Right. And even Trump said so essentially about a week ago, maybe now. I don't know. You can't keep up with it. Okay. This is amazing to me. I was reading your newsletter, which I'm a big fan of, and the app, which I'm now hooked on. It's in the morning I check 2 websites. I do my Wordle and I check that. So
we're in with the times.
Yeah,
I love it.
I love it. So check out the app. But I cannot believe that Emily's Challenge, how big of a success this is and how important it is. If people aren't aware, tell us about Emily's Challenge, the educational trailer.
So it's an educational trailer that details 2 fatal crashes that occurred in our county that both of them took the lives of young people, one due to distracted driving, one due to impaired intoxicated driving. And we have an actual vehicle in the trailer that was involved in one of the more horrific crashes I've seen in my career, where 4 people died. And we have video that goes along with it with testimonies from the survivors and the responding officers. And it's very, very powerful. And then Emily was the daughter of our dispatcher, Kim Clark, and she presents with it also. So you have that real-time presentation, plus the video, plus then you go out and experience and hear the 911 calls, hear the crash, everything associated with that. And it's a year. It'll be a year in service next week, and we've already served over 3,000 students.
That's amazing.
With that message.
Well, 3,000 students, not to mention when it's at the fair. I saw it at the Steuben County Fair. So how many people has it actually reached? Because it's impactful.
It's very impactful.
It takes you back. It's tough to, not too many dry eyes, and the kids
and our goal is to save as many lives as we can, to get them to make that last-minute thought, do I want to get in this car or don't I? And it's been we've actually been tapped to go to the Highway Safety Symposium in Oswego for the state Governor's Traffic Safety Council. They want us to bring it up there in October and present on it. for statewide presentation.
Are you sure that's still ongoing? Oswego's busy finding all that paperwork for Letitia James. Speaking, I shouldn't make a joke about it. It stinks. It really does stink.
Yes.
But I know Emily's challenge trailer, I'm assuming, is going to be at the open house, right?
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Tell us, that was my segue. Wasn't that great?
Yes.
Tell me about the open house coming up on the 19th. July
So on
19th.
the 19th, we're doing a first responder open house at the Hammond Sport Fire over in their fair area, their outdoor facility. And the purpose is for recruitment for not just law enforcement, also for EMS and fire.
Yeah, right.
And so we're inviting everybody to it, and we're going to be doing demonstrations. Our canines will be there, our SWAT team will be there, our CERT team from the jail will be there, and we'll be doing demonstrations. We'll have applications for the county there with us.
Oh, great.
And I was told that there's a possibility Brian Hughes may be there performing.
Okay.
So we'll have some music.
Wow.
We'll have food. Corning Catering will be
Of course.
there supplying the food. And the idea is to expose as many young people as we can to what emergency services do in this county. And it doesn't have to be young people, anybody that's interested in being a public servant or in serving their community through volunteer fire.
Right. And now we're just about out of time, but I think we're going to make this a point to bring this up every time. We talked the last few times about the camp and peer support camp, and I can't remember the official term for the camp, but you've been working hard on this. Are there any updates?
Yes, on the Wellness Center.
Well, thank you. I couldn't think of the word.
There are some updates. Actually, I presented last week to the community services, the person that's in charge of mental health for every county.
Oh, wow.
We presented to them. Excuse me. I presented to up in Oriskany to a roundtable of New York State wellness providers.
Okay.
And super supportive. Both are, and things are moving forward with it. Next month, I was invited to a roundtable with Senator Gillibrand to discuss it.
Oh, that'd be fun.
We've teamed with the Mental Health Association of New York State also to create the gold standard of peer support training with establishing a network county by county statewide. Mm-hmm. So we're working very diligently towards that also. So it's got momentum.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to be part of it, but even more excited for what it's going to mean for the future generation of law enforcement.
Absolutely.
And for their durability in this very difficult career.
Mm-hmm. And is there going to be an opportunity for us to help support this in the future?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and as soon as that, right now they're still hitting the big folks.
Yeah.
And very soon it'll open up to individual donations. And when that happens, I'll make sure that we get it out.
Yes, please do, because I know
Publicize it
every
very
time we
much.
bring it up, people are excited to hear it, because
Yeah.
it's almost one of those things of why hasn't this been already done?
I know.
In a weird way.
It
It's
is.
one of those things right in front of your face that no
Well,
one ever saw.
and you look at over the last 15 years or so, when I was new on the job, if you had a stressful night, you went to a watering hole
Right.
and had a couple pops, and
Yeah.
and not that helped, but that's what you did. Now we take it much more seriously, and that's the peer support bill, one of them that we were backing, in the assembly finally passed the line where if someone is a certified peer support officer, they have confidentiality now. They can't be subpoenaed into court to testify what
great.
that person in crisis told them.
Wow. That's so important.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. It's great to hear. And we don't have time really, but we should let people know you've got your big golf tournament coming up.
Yes, August
Have you
22nd.
You've been practicing?
I'm not sure that would help.
No, yeah. Not to mention the weather's been, so that can be everybody's excuse.
Yeah.
There's been so much rain. I didn't get to practice in, but they should still definitely participate in
Yes.
the golf tournament. It's a fun time, and Billy Spalding's going to be there too.
Yes, and he's going to have a team.
I can't wait. That's who I'm rooting for.
You want to see Billy? You want to see Billy swing a club, don't you?
I do. I can't wait. I picture it like honeymooners. Hello, ball. Address the ball. Anyway, on that note, we are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Again, if you are just joining us, you missed a heck of a show, but the Corning Post school budget did pass, as well as Horsehead. Sheriff Allard, thanks as always for being on the show.
Thanks
We'll
for
have you
having
on
me. I
again
appreciate
soon.
it.
I know you want to remind everybody, next Tuesday is the vote.
Next
Primary
Tuesday
vote.
is the primary vote. Get out and vote.
Yes.
Rock the vote.
That's right. All right, join us tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We'll see you bright and early. Look forward to it already.